Seeking hope. Yes, it can be hard to find, but it's out there. And God is good. Welcome to the Magellan Show, brought to you by DinarIntel.com. We're going to be tackling all of the issues that affect us all. The Iraqi Dinar, cryptocurrency, spirituality, and much more. So don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are for the next half hour, and let's get started. Our phone lines are open right now, so jump on in. Area code 646-929-0709. And now, our show, it starts right now. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Dinar Intel's Magellan Show. This is Thursday, May the 15th, shall we say. I was looking at an article just now, something that was going on April, May the 15th, 2014. I want to welcome you to our broadcast today. For all those of you that are listening across the nation and around the world, we appreciate your listening because you make the show. You really do. And we appreciate that very much. I want to remind you that if you want to follow us on social media, check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Dinar Intel. And also to remind you that this show is available on demand, of course, on our website, www.dinarintel.com or MagellanShow.com. It's also available on other websites like itdcalls.com. And for those of you that are in the iTunes, you can find us on iTunes as well. So just wanted to remind you of that. Also, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsors that help keep us going, and we want to get to that right now because we've got a good show lined up for you, and once we start, we want to just focus solely on that. We've got a special guest. I want to thank DinarInc.com for their support of our Intel's Magellan Show. They are a leading provider of Iraqi dinars. Their We want to invite you now to go to our website, DinarIntel.com, and you can check out the latest news and information on our website. But right now, we want to welcome a special guest to our program. Once in a while, we'll have a special guest. It may be a guest that talks about Iraqi dinars, or may have a special guest that talks about cryptocurrencies, whatever the case may be. But our special guest for today is Stryker. Now, I was on Stryker's program late last year. He graciously invited me to come on this program, and I really enjoyed being on that show. I like what he's doing. You know, in this community, you know that I'm pretty tough on folks when it comes to all of the nonsense that's going on, the rumors, and that does not mean that I hit it perfectly. No, none of us do, but you know what I'm talking about, and we're truth seekers. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Stryker, his program, his blog, all of that, is that, you know, he's the real deal. And again, doesn't mean that he's perfect. None of us are. But he is doing his best to try to help bring some clarity in this whole within this whole dynamic, you know, because being invested in this currency is an exciting thing. Being involved is very interesting, but it's a roller coaster ride. And so we're just trying to smooth it out a little bit. So without further ado, I want to welcome Stryker to our program. Stryker, are you with us?
I am. Here I am. Thank you so much, Magellan, for having me on today.
You're welcome. Now, before we kind of get started talking about all things Dinar, sure the folks, you know, how they can learn more about your website and all that good stuff.
Oh, thank you. Of course, my pleasure. Our website is www.stryker, Stryker with a Y, blog.com, strykerblog.com, and on there you'll find 13 different tabs on the toolbar, and our live web TVs up there, our episodes. We're going over probably around 300. I haven't added them up in a long time, but it's north of 300 episodes. We've been airing Stryker Web TV since March 1st, 2013. Stryker blog is fairly new to the Dinar community. We were before February 16, 2013. We were just an underground think tank, about 98 of us trying to figure out this crazy ride we're on called the Iraqi Dinar. But that's how you can get a hold of us. info@strykerblog.com if you have any questions. And once again, thank you so much, Magellan, for having me on today.
Oh, you're welcome, and it's my pleasure. Well, we're at an interesting point now in this whole process. We've been watching all these events take place very closely. You and I both have, and it seems like the last year or so, there's been a lot of news. I mean, there's always news coming out of Iraq, but if you think about the last year, we're almost a year, and we'll be celebrating Chapter 7 sanctions, being released from that last year in June. Just different things that are happening, and in our community, we watch these events and we rally around them, hoping and praying that, okay, this event will trigger the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. I know way back, and I'm sure your community was probably watching when the troops would pull out of Iraq. These different events, and they are significant. And sometimes I think the impression that folks have is that, okay, the RV didn't happen after such and such event, so somebody must have got it wrong. Well, that may be the case, but we also have to understand that things are changing in Iraq, and there's not just one person on the throne, shall we say, that is making all of the decisions. Things are changing all the time. And so with that in mind, if we look at some of the more recent events and statements, I'd like for you to take some moments and take your liberty. We'll try to squeeze all this in the next little bit. This is just a 30-minute broadcast, but kind of share with the folks your thoughts, because there's been some articles that have come out. We were reading an article, a lot of us have in this community, that, the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq basically was saying, okay, we're going to delete the 3 zeros, and this thing's going to take place midpoint of the year, so we're thinking like summertime. And then we find out just last few days that now the Finance Committee is saying something different, and it looks like that the carrot here is being pulled out again, and now here we are looking at maybe another 8 months or so, early 2015, based upon their comments. Take some time, if you would, to kind of share with our listeners what your thoughts and analysis are regarding these two different stories. Are they conflicting, or maybe they're really not? And just take some time to kind of go over that, if you wouldn't mind. We would appreciate that.
Oh no, my pleasure. And yes, there are some. Really, they're the same articles, folks, but they're coming from different people. But it's a good point Magellan brings up. The first articles came out from the guy in charge, Abdul Passat Turki, the acting governor of the Central Bank of Iraq. And everybody needs to keep in mind he is still the head of the Islamic Supreme Audit, or the Supreme Audit. So he's got two capacities ever since Shabibi was ousted and he took over. But it seems like he continues, which is great for us and the Iraqis themselves, that he's continued with Shabibi's legacy. He didn't let Maliki beat up on him. He didn't, release any funds to Maliki out of the reserves. But what's important to understand that he kind of led the way for these current articles a little over 2 weeks ago. I think tomorrow would probably be 2 weeks when he first did his announcement in a couple different media releases. One was that real important that he said that all the mechanisms will be in place on the measures. The measures will be in place by middle of the year to raise the zeros from the local currency. And he then, in a separate interview, said that they are not going to. Or no, it's the same one. I'm sorry. The same one said they will not hesitate to implement the process or the program to raise the zeros when it's suitable and stable in this situation is the two items. It's real important to understand. Political and economic. Those two areas he made emphasis of. They will not hesitate to the time is right, and they will not hesitate to implement the project as long as suitable in the fields of economic or political and economic in country. So after that, Magellan, as you pointed out, there's the finance minister. I mean, not the finance minister. A member of the finance committee, I believe, came out. Yashiri and another gentleman from another institution, being Reform or whatever the institution. He made comments, but there was a slew of articles that came in, and they don't really contradict what Turkey's doing. Keep in mind, Turkey's the head honcho here as acting governor of the Central Bank of Iraq. The Central Bank of Iraq is completely responsible for monetary changes, monetary structure, the stability or the changes of the Iraqi dinar as far as exchange rates. So the regime itself, the framework, whatever they're, in conjunction with whatever IMF, what's the word I'm looking for? Suggest, or they don't run the show, but they do analyze things. Correct, Magellan?
Yes.
Yeah. So these guys started coming out, and the articles are rare. The titles to the articles you got to be careful of, because they're saying part of the story. They're saying early 2015. So that's throwing everybody off. And what we've done is not only have we had interpreters look at these articles as an Arab. Looking at them, I'm pretty good at dissecting them myself, and we're in consensus of the meaning. And what they're saying is, you read these, they say any time in the next 8 months. Okay, and that 8 months started after the election. And let me go back a little bit to kind of emphasize where this 8 months coming from in another scenario to connect the dots. Remember, right before the election, the articles came out and said it could take as much as 8 months, or early 2015, to form the new government. So here you go. Turkey makes his comments. Then you got these other folks that are involved. And keep in mind that it's a coordinated effort between the government of Iraq and the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq to get it implemented consistently and concisely in the launching of this program. So you get these guys that are among and they do have the right to talk because they're on these committees, but they come out and the titles are saying that it's going to be early 2015. But if you read the articles, it says any time in that time frame. So if you connect those dots, the reason they're giving a latitude, and I feel we're in the first ever real window that is in consensus with the government officials that are working with Turkey and Turkey themselves, which is the CBI. Okay, so if you look at that in the broader picture, Magellan, I hope you you look at this and they say in these later articles actually even say this. They say in the next 8 months or early 2015 or before. Well, before could be any time, but yet you got to go back to Turkey, and he says the measures will be in place to implement the project raised to zeros by mid-year. So we then have to look at what's going on in the government. But I hope that I don't think they're not talking. As a matter of fact, all these articles do the same thing. A few of them, the only thing in these articles that there's any waiver would be the fact that a few of them are saying that it doesn't need political or economic stability or situation to implement it. The time is now. Even these articles are a little contradicting. They say it's suitable right now. These other people besides Turkey. But yet the title says early 2015. But you have to understand how they talk, how these things are translated. They read from right to left. We read from left to right. The translation apps can only do so much as far as in the slang and things like that. Hey, you try to be an Iraqi translating American if it's a Cajun talking or a Texan talking or a New York guy talking and see what you come up with. So anyway, I really...
You're right about that. You were so right. I know that, just having, been educated in the Spanish language and studied that in college and taught it and interpreted it, I've noticed that same thing, especially with a lot of these translation programs. That's why sometimes when we report on articles, we say, this is kind of an Arabish article, meaning that, the translation is kind of loosely translated. We're doing our best, but it's not the same as if an actual Arab were to translate it. You make a very valid point there. And I think that's also another good thing that you said that brought some clarity and some balance to these articles, because sometimes we'll get an article and we'll get really excited, and then another article comes out, and this happens. This is a tendency in this community. Then it's like, oh, the wind's knocked out of our sails. But I think what you're seeing here, based upon your analysis, which I think is very good, is that what Turkey is saying, and the buck stops there. He's kind of the last word. He's the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq. And he's saying, we're going to, that groundwork, the foundation, everything that we need will be in place to then begin that process. And that process could be, and like I said, they've given themselves some latitude, they've given themselves some time, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be in 8 months. It means that it could be within that period of time. That could be a few weeks from now. And a lot of things are changing. You have a few comments, like, do you feel like that, we're going to be getting the results of the elections here, just very soon, next few days, according to some reports. Do you feel like that the election process overall will bode well for this and will be a positive step in the right direction in terms of the revaluation and the steps they're taking? Or do you think that it just doesn't really have as much bearing as what a lot of people want to say?
Oh, no, it has everything to do with it. And good point you bring up, because if you look at these articles and look at what all of them are saying, all are saying they may not be in agreement with it, but they're saying the same two key words. You got to look at the key words: political and economic. Turkey says that the situation has to be right. The measures won't be in place by mid-year, so we know that all the measures, there's things going on that need to be done, or he wouldn't have said mid-year. So let's look at what's going on and look at the two key words. The two key words are political and economic. What's going on political? Well, the elections. Let me take a little bit back to about a month ago when the Iraqi Economic Reform Committee had a meeting on a Saturday. And within that meeting, a complete diagram came out of a long written agenda. And in these meetings, they say what has been going on in our country to keep from doing economic reform. And they identified those. They identified what it took to make it work going forward. So they knew what it was wrong. They knew what it was going to take to make it go forward. And so there's a clear plan. And what did they say in this? And again, a lot of the listeners may not have read this, but it's very long, and it took me a while to get through it. But what they said is they knew what the problem was. They knew how to fix it. And it took a new set of leaders with a new form government with an agenda. Well, you have to look back and say, who brought the country together last year? That was Hakim, the president of the Islamic Supreme Council, for an honor document. So look at here. He's in political arena now. He formed the Citizens Coalition. So it has everything to do with this upcoming official legal announcement of the results of the ballot. And folks, that will be out in 10 more days. The 25th, we're mid-month. Early on in this process of the election month of April, they said it would be a 25 to 30-day stay after the April 30th ballot day, voting day, because they have to listen to legal arguments. They have to count and recount, make sure there's no hanging chads.
like the election, yeah, I remember that.
Right. And so they just got to dot the I's and cross the T's. So they've announced today they're going to have the results. It depends what you rate. Are they at 75% finished or 90% finished or 100% finished? But I think by tomorrow they're going to be 100% finished, and then they got to double check and look at hear all the legal arguments. That's why there's a 25, 30-day stay. But they announced that officials will come out. So if you look at the political thing that everybody's saying, if they may not even be agreement, if the political situation is but I look at Turkey, because Turkey, Abdul Basat Turkey, governor of the CBI, is the guy, no matter how you look at it. These other guys are just making opinions and statements, but they're following his leads. They may say it doesn't matter about political and economic, but it does matter to him, because he's the one that's going to pull the trigger, folks. So you look at what's political. Well, you got to wait for the results. Now, there's coalition alignments going up right now, and of course, it's going to be the month of June is going to be very busy once these official results come out and tally up. And it makes a lot of difference. It seems like Turkey knows what he's got a clear agenda. He knows the mechanisms. We would be naive to not think that these guys are getting briefings every day from the voting commission, the official voting commission, because they're still in power. And they're getting briefings, and they're preparing. Maliki's preparing either to concede and exit, which he might need to because of some of the other articles coming out. They're aligning up with the Citizen Coalition, the Kurdistan Alliance, the Najafi, the Speaker of the House, his Unity Coalition. They're all making deals behind the scenes. So I believe that's what Turkey's saying on the political. The situation needs to be stable, and that's the formation of the new government. What comes before that is the alignments that are going on, the deals being made behind closed doors, and then an official voting rule. The next thing you look at is the economic side of things. What's economic going on in the country? The economic side going on in the country. Well, that would have to be the budget approval and anything underneath that would be important to understand and document anything under the budget. Well, Turkey in the other articles that he came out with said that to launch this project of raising the zeros of the local currency, must have accountability. Accounting must be in place, and record keeping must be in place. Well, that's the budget. Those things would go underneath the budget. So we have to look. The key to this success, in my opinion, are political stability and situation, which is the formation of a new government with or without Maliki, and the formation of the economic situation must be correct, and that must be approval of the budget, which would have the new rate for accountability and record keeping. Anyway, that's my take on it, Magellan.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking the other day, we were conversing on the phone. You've done some pretty thorough analysis of exactly how an RV would work, especially in the context of Iraq, because there are a lot of folks out there that are continually, they're the naysayers out there that are saying, well, how could this happen? Maybe this is just a law. How could this really take place? Because so many things would have to happen in Iraq, so much change in terms of the way that goods and services are priced and labeled. I know you've done a lot of study on this, and I know we're a little short on time, but if you can just take a couple of minutes or so to kind of at least give folks a sense as to how you think that could at least open up and work out, and how all that would make sense, and kind of share some of your thoughts based on your research, if you wouldn't mind.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't mind at all. Matter of fact, look for a blog if you're interested in further. I know we're and I don't want to give my whole blog away either on before it actually comes out. But I am working on a blog that breaks down things, and I don't mind sharing a few of the things on the blog. It's taken me hours and hours to formulate this, but it actually comes down to this. You're exactly right, Magellan. There's all kinds of balances that need to come out: record keeping, accountability, and things like that. So if I have done extensive research on index comparison, an index comparison that I do, which to make it relatable to us, would be comparing something with a city in the United States, in a city there in Iraq. So what I've done is this upcoming blog, I should have it out in the next 24, 48 hours. I've got to fine tune it a little bit, but it covers the whole scenario, what things go up and what things go down. Because it's a whole project, folks, and that's why we've heard terminology like raising the 3 zeros, raising the value of purchasing power by 3 zeros, deleting 3 zeros from the local currency. Shabibi's favorite word was removing 3 zeros. You have to remove the big zeros from the in circulation when you do other things. So there's a whole mechanism, and that's why they call it deleting the zero project, or raising the zero project, like Turkey likes to say, removing, like Shabibi likes to say. So a salary, and this is going to cover salaries, and salaries have to go down because the only lop I see is the lopping the salaries. I see raising purchasing power, and there's enough documented information to prove that. But in this, I did index, and I'll just cover a little bit of the index real quick for food for thought for you folks. And if your folks, you can direct them, or I can send you my blog link, Magellan, when I get it out, so you can share it with your folks. But real quickly, just a quick food for thought. Index.
Yeah, just tweet it to Dinar Intel, and then that way, that's how people are following our news anyway. So that would be great. We'd love that.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's great idea. Index comparison: Baghdad, Iraq to Dallas, Texas. Here's some food for thought here. Consumer price in Baghdad are 32.99% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Consumer prices, including rent in Baghdad, are 38.39% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Rent price in Baghdad are 49.36% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Restaurant prices in Baghdad are 32.42% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Grocery prices in Baghdad are 40.14% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Local purchasing power in Baghdad is 74.4% 0.18% lower than in Dallas, Texas. We wonder how these poor folks buy groceries and stuff. Well, this just tells you it's almost 75% lower. Now, people always say that there's no value in the dinar. There is a value. It just takes a lot of it sometimes to buy things. So
yeah, it takes a bunch of them.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you one quick example here real quick. And some people are saying the price of everything has to go down. And that's not quite right, because some things will have to go up. If you give the purchasing power of the dinar equal to the dollar, which is a lot of speculation on this investment we're in, but if you give it to them and it goes 1-to-1, would not that have to be adjusted out for inflationary deals? We already know tariffs are about to be implemented. That's why the RV will take place, and that's a whole different subject. But I did a show, matter of fact, our roundtable last night, and yesterday we did a show on demand at strykerblog.com. Yesterday was a show just on WTO and talking about where they are in a session, and the memorandum of understanding to get them there in the legal department was held in the last 48 hours. And then we sent and then the last night's roundtable, which is all on yesterday's date on demand or the episode page of strykerblog.com, we spent an hour and a half even further research, and the World Trade Organization answered one of our members out of California on how they actually post stuff in a session for Iraq or any country, and it answers a lot of your questions where they are in the WTO if anybody's interested. But and I know we're running out of time, but real quickly, a bushel of apples that weighs 2.2 pounds in Baghdad is $1.70. In Dallas, it's $3.33. It costs 1,978.84 Iraqi dinars to buy that one bushel. It will only cost 1.78 dinars if they hypothetically revalued it 1-to-1. In that, the price of that apple didn't go down. The purchasing power of the dinar went up. So you were able, for that 1,978 dinars, today only buying one bushel of 1 kilograms or 2.2 pounds of apples will buy you 1,111 bushels when it goes up. A lot of people think that's because the price of goods went down. The price of that bushel of apples went down. No, it's the purchasing power. That same Iraqi that has that remaining 1,090 dinars is worth a lot more in purchasing power. But yet you can't have that same Iraqi making hundreds of thousands of comparable dollars to dinars a month, so those will have to be adjusted. So watch for my blog, and that'll explain a lot more of this process.
Wow. That is really, really interesting. And I think that's one thing we forget, is that this is about, for the Iraqis, about purchasing power. We think about exchange rates because we're here in the United States, or wherever you may be listening, and those of you that are listening outside of Iraq, we're thinking about our own currency, and that's fine. But in terms of Iraq, it's purchasing power. Stryker, you've done some extensive research on this. We're gonna put you on the spot here, and we're just gonna have to invite you back to come on when it's convenient for you, because we really appreciate your balanced approach to all of this. It's very helpful, and I think it's a great contribution to the community. Got about a minute left in our show. Any final things you'd like to say as we're wrapping up? And we appreciate you once again for joining us.
Oh, no. And let me add this. The reason these other politicians are involved in this program, and they are involved in this program of turkeys and the raising the zero program. The reason why they're giving this 8 months, and the reason why I brought in the new government, they're giving a window. If in case this new government, because there's negotiations that need to go on, are given a window, it all is hinged, in my opinion, on the formation of the new government, new seated people, and getting this thing done. So that's why I brought in those correlation between the timetable of new government being formed, and they say any time before. If this government gets formed real quick in June, the mechanisms are in place. Folks, we've got a really good logical, and we've never had this before. Once again, I'll come on anytime you want. There's just so much to go over, but I hope I explained that well enough for your listeners, and any questions, just forward them to me, Mellon.
Absolutely, you definitely did. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you all for listening to our broadcast here, Dinar Intel's Magellan Show, DinarIntel.com. You can catch this archive for those of you that live demanding live on demand, available on our website, dinarintel.com, also available through iTunes and on itdcalls.com. It'll be posted there as well. Thank you all for joining us. Have a blessed day, and catch us for Inspiration Sunday this Sunday, our religious broadcast, and we'll be back here on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, all times Eastern, for another edition of our Intel broadcast. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. See you later, Stryker. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Muted.
All right, folks. That was interesting. I hope I helped his listeners out. And if y'all have any questions, info@strikerblog.com. You know what it is. I just thought it'd be interesting to stream this thing live for our. Sometimes I believe that was a better explanation I've had in a long time, because I wasn't had all these other things in my mind. So I'm going to post this, but really, just look for the blog. The blog, every time I turn around, something keeps interrupting my process, as they call it up north, our Canadian friends, our process of getting this blog done. It's going to be informative. It's going to be interesting. It's going to enlighten us a lot. Now, am I 100% right? Like Magellan says, we're never perfect, folks. We just try real hard. I like the guy. I like him a lot. I've invited Mr. White. I'm going to call him and see if he'd come on next week. We have who we have coming on the show. Magellan said he'd come on. I'm going to try to get Tom Tilar back on next week. Today is, what is today, folks? Is it Thursday? Is it supposed to be my... Yes, it is. Roundtable Wednesday last night, right? It won't be a show. I don't show a regular show anyway on Thursdays at 4 o'clock. That's kind of my day off. But I will emphasize that starting June 9th, we will be streaming every day, Monday through Friday, noon, Monday and Tuesday, Roundtable for Wednesday nights at 7, Hump Day, and then Thursday and Friday at noon. And if there has to be a special broadcast, we'll do that too. There's so much changing right now. I may come on and do these short segment shows and get them done. Anyway, folks, I really appreciate you guys joining us and being a part of the Magellan Show. I had to mute it. I can't have another Dinar dealer information because of my relationship with our sponsor. So I'm sure you caught that, and I can't have advertising going on my show. But anyway, that's okay. I support Magellan. I think he's got a good format. I encourage others to, compare things and make up your own mind. This has been Stryker on the Magellan Show, and we're all about what? Real facts with real people about a real investment called the Iraqi Dinar. Cheers, folks. Have a good evening, and see you tomorrow. How about that? And if I can figure out where my button is, I'll say good day.